Some amazing insights there, and trends, and what Adobe Commerce is doing to capitalise on that, and all the opportunities and tones and subjects that we're very kind of familiar with when it comes to internationalisation, and certainly when it comes to bringing that kind of experience to B2B users and companies, which leads us perfectly onto our next presentation. So I'd like to introduce our own head of design, Laura Hodson, who has been working in B2B design for many, many years with many of Monsoon's diverse and large, complex B2B clients. And Laura, I'd like to invite you up and look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
My name is Laura, as Alistair mentioned. I'm head of design, and I am a user experience and user interface designer with a strong background in marketing and also branding. So what am I going to cover today? So today I'm going to look at personalisation with the lens of B2B and also with user experience in mind. As Alex mentioned in his talk, B2B buyers are now, you know, millennials, Gen Z. 71% of this group are now from that era, and they're looking for experiences that do, you know, match that of the B2C giants that we all use every day. So you know, it's here to stay, and what I'm going to cover first is around some challenges that the new digital landscape will kind of give for organisations, and maybe how personalisation can assist with that. And then what is personalisation in e-commerce, a little conversation about that, and how we can realistically offer personalisation for B2B e-commerce. So I'll delve into a couple of challenges before we get through to the rest. So I think the first major challenge is around leveraging data and analytics for commercial growth. A lot of organisations, you know, gather the information, they have all this information, but they struggle to, you know, figure out what to do with it. How do they affect the bottom line by utilising this? And 46% of CSOs claim that this is their main challenge. And you know, I think we need to kind of look at what's the perfect scenario and how to use the data. So first, you collect the data and analytics, which is, you know, everybody's kind of able to do that, but it's the discovering and interpreting the data patterns and the themes. And that then is something that you need to do to enable you to make data-driven decisions, which then will feed into your sales and marketing efforts and strategies, and therefore will increase your commercial performance. So it definitely needs that level of process to actually implement change and actually utilise the data analytics to help. But the reality is somewhat different. A lot of organisations are struggling to connect the dots between the data and the customers. There's lots of different reasons for this. Data silos is probably quite a significant one, that in B2B a lot of the data is sitting across lots of different systems, and they're not all talking to each other. There's GDPR issues. Can or can't we use this data? Like, where can we share it, where can we not? Maybe there wasn't consent at the very start of the process. And then security, something that really needs to be considered with every usage of data across all of the areas of the business. Skills gap, I think, is another huge one that a lot of the companies are maybe in B2B more traditional. So maybe you have an e-commerce side of the business that would actually be leveraging the data, but the other more traditional side of the business would be still using decision-making skills based on traditional methods, and sometimes the two areas do not communicate or, you know, I suppose collaborate when it comes to data-driven decisions. And then a cultural mindset, that was a cultural mindset. The skills gap is around somebody not available to make those interpretation of the data. There isn't somebody with the responsibility of identifying the themes and the patterns that comes from the data. Also, another big trap that companies fall into is collecting too much data. collecting data for the sake of it, and usually that comes from having no plan. When there is nobody dedicated to strategizing and following through on the data and what to do with it, what happens is everyone let's just collect everything, and it becomes overwhelming. There's too much of it, and also there has to be a reason for every piece of data that's collected. There has to be a purpose for it, otherwise it just becomes just too overwhelming and too much. Information overload for customers is another big challenge I see at the moment, and what I mean by this is that a lot of the times there's too much information being presented to customers, and the cognitive load of this is too much. It's too overwhelming for people to really process through all the information. And organisations are doing a really good job at the moment of putting together really high quality information for all of their solutions on online, offline, everywhere. It's there is a lot of high quality information out there, but I think a lot of the time what's happening is that instead of feeling enabled and empowered by this information, it can become a little bit overwhelming for users to filter through and prioritise the range and amount of information, the competing perspectives that comes from all of this information that's being put to them. And this brings me to Miller's Law. So this is a theory that your brain can only process 7 pieces of information at any one time, and after that, after 20 to 45 seconds, those 7 pieces of information then will fade from your mind. So when it comes to, for instance, here's what I've picked out from a e-commerce product page. All of this information is what greets a user when it comes to the page. But ultimately, you will just walk away with 7 pieces of information, and it's up to us as user experience designers to use techniques to lessen that cognitive load by chunking and grouping items together so that it isn't too much. But also that's where personalisation comes into effect. Being able to filter out the unnecessary and also prioritising the information that actually is most relevant to the particular user. I thought this was quite interesting as well. It's around research about sales reps. So the research shows that the most successful sales reps are the ones that aren't showcasing all of their new expertise and their own personal expertise and giving more and more information to customers. The most successful ones they already use the information that is currently there, and they're just filtering and aligning the information better for the customers. They are acting as information connectors, and I think that's what online can really learn from, and that's where personalisation can really assist here as well. It is becoming that online sales rep almost. And then another big challenge is around digital control shift. Excuse me. And what I mean by this is around organisations previously, especially B2B, they had the power. It was a top-down situation that when it comes to a digital experience, they controlled what the user journey was, they controlled what the product, services, how the user interacted with the system. But in recent times, with the advancements in technology, this dynamic has shifted. So it's now customers who are dictating to organisations how and when they want to engage with an online platform, what services, what types of things they want to do online. As Alex said, their expectations, they're so much higher now that we have to, and organisations have to start taking notice and really stepping up to the mark by implementing these things for customers. Users are demanding flexible, consistent and high quality experiences, and if they don't get them, they are going to go to competitors. And the more and more B2B organisations that start along this journey of personalisation are going to be the ones that will start to see, I suppose, the benefits of it. So what is personalisation in e-commerce? And we've looked at a few of the challenges, maybe how personalisation can assist with that. But really, in a nutshell, Personalisation is when it profiles the user and adapts the user interface to suit that user. And that leads to a more personalised experience, which will take into account their user needs, their interests, and also it enables them to efficiently complete their tasks a lot faster, because as I mentioned with the Miller's Law, it's taking about all of the unnecessary elements to the journey, and it improves the user experience, it improves findability, and things are easier to find throughout their online journey. What are the types of personalisation? You have individualised, which is the data of one. So this is your Spotify's, your social media feed, your Netflix. It's all of your pointed data from one user coming together to really give you a very individualised personal experience. Role-based is more where, I suppose, B2B sits at the moment, and it's around segmented, role-based personalisation, and also location-based. It could be regional, that some products or services maybe are not available in a particular region, or you can personalise based on a region for content and things like that. So it's here to stay, really. 77% of customers prioritise companies that provide a personalised user experience or service. And then I suppose we have to talk about AI and hyper-personalisation, individualisation, and that is really the use of advanced data analytics. It's the use of AI and machine learning to deliver highly customised and relevant shopping experiences to customers. It goes that step. It hones in on the customer almost in real time on how and when, and almost before they even feel like they are ready to buy. And the benefits are huge. We don't, it doesn't come as a surprise for a lot of people here, but enhanced customer experience and satisfaction comes from being able to find what you need. It comes from a very, very pleasant and seamless user experience, which then will lead to in increased conversion rates. When you're able to find things faster, move through seamlessly, it does affect your conversion rates, and it does affect customer retention and loyalty. The happier the customer is, obviously, the more they're going to come back. And then also for the business side of things, it gives better customer insights and forecasting when you have really good quality data and personalisation. But I suppose they're all the positives. We do need to be mindful of some of the more consideration side of the, when it comes to collecting data, because this level of personalisation and the way it's kind of progressing it involves collecting more and more data from customers and users, and this almost has to be considered when it comes to privacy, security, and the ethical side of your data usage. There is a fine line between where this sits, and sometimes it can border on the intrusive and possibly even on the creepy, so you have to be mindful. But I think once the organisations are always having these considerations and the ethical side of this data usage to the forefront of their mind, there shouldn't be an issue. And then the complexity of B2B personalisation, and the first complexity is around the data collection itself. Compared to B2C, B2B would possibly be more, legacy systems. The data is spread across lots of different systems which don't, not easily pulled from. Also, sometimes we have come across there's no data whatsoever. So this is the first step in the process that's almost stunted for a lot of companies because they don't have this data collected or are finding it challenging to collect it. Highly customised, B2B in itself, really the model is already highly customised when it comes to dynamic pricing, customised product catalogues, and this adds an additional layer to enabling personalisation, and it can be a bit of a barrier to certain functionality, especially when it comes to trying to get it work with legacy systems, and then also incorporating all of the different customised elements of the business. Integrations with existing systems, we do have to deal with some dinosaurs when it comes to CRMs and ERPs, and this does not easily adapt to advanced technologies, and also it can add a significant budget and time effort when it comes to these integrations. So it does become something that we do have to discuss very early on with any B2B client that we are going to be working with, that what are we looking at here when it comes to integrations. So now, how can we offer personalization for B2B commerce? So I've picked out some, I think, more realistic ways. You know, we're really, you know, talking quite high level, but now I've brought out some very specific examples. Before I delve into these, you know, as a user experience designer, it would be wrong for me not to have to bring it back to the users again. And, you know, when it comes to you know, customer patterns and behaviours, data can only show you so much. You do need to know the users, know their journey. How can you answer certain questions that they have in the sales funnel without knowing what those questions are? So the answers will be available, you know, you're able to produce the answers at the right time and at the right place for the users by, you know, utilising some UX research methods. You can do it qualitatively and quantitatively. You can do user interviews, surveys, which will enable you to build out user personas and also customer journey maps. So you'll never regret any sort of customer research. So the power of true omni-channel is understanding all of the channels that our customers use and how they want to use them throughout their entire journey. If you don't understand what that journey is, you can't provide the right information at the right time. So I'll delve into a couple examples of personalisation, or how we could bring in personalisation to B2B e-commerce. So dynamic pricing, it's quite a topical term at the moment, given the recent sales of a certain band's ticket prices. But dynamic pricing is not something new for B2B. It's been around from the very start, and from our perspective, it's one of the top things that is in our backlog list when it comes to a new client coming on board for a B2B e-commerce platform. So dynamic pricing really is, you know, individual or role or organisation based, and one customer sees one price for the same product and another customer will see another price. And this can also take into account discounts and promotions, and also around, so discounts and promotions. Customer-specific product catalogues, that's another critical key to success when it comes to a B2B e-commerce platform, that certain customers don't need to see certain products, either for convenience, so, you know, a Michelin star chef won't need to see the same products that a coffee shop owner. And it can also be contractual agreements that sometimes certain brands won't want to sell to certain customers, or it can be down to regulatory. So, you know, in this case here, you've got boilers, which are only for registered boilers installers, so other users will not see boilers, whereas the boiler installers will. And product recommendations, this is obviously where a lot of the growth has come with personalisation over the last while. And it can be really exciting when it comes to AI and also all of the really interesting third-party tools that are out there that really utilise and are really making these product recommendations really relevant and you know, personalised for each user. We have found that sometimes this can be quite tricky to implement as well, though it does add, as I said, it does add a different layer to it, because you have your dynamic pricing, you have your individual catalogues, but it can be done and it can work really effectively. But out of the box, most e-commerce platforms will have related products. You can manually, you know, group products together, and the key to remember when it comes to product recommendations is around relevance. It has to be relevant to the product and it has to be relevant to the user. There's nothing worse than seeing product recommendations that have absolutely nothing to do with your journey thus far or anything to do with the product that you're looking at. Here's an example recently of a customer that we use suggested products, so product recommendations on the cart. It's non-intrusive, it's just a little line above the cart, so it doesn't derail the user along their journey, which we never want to do with conversion rates. So it's just a little hint of suggestion of what maybe you could add based on your cart. So it's pulling based on what is in the user's cart, and if they click more, they can simply scroll out and just add to the cart without moving from the cart, and it's a nice product recommendation that is easily added. Another way of related products or product recommendations would be along a listing page that we have sometimes added it here, especially in B2B. A lot of users may not go to the product page, but you can add it as a line underneath. And what we found is that some products, they may have a certain brand, but they have a very similar brand of same product, similar brand. It just really does showcase a lot more product visibility, and really brings the different products to the forefront of the user's mind when they're going through their journey. Cross-sell, substitutes and alternatives. Again, this is a really interesting way that you can personalize. You can look at data from how people buy things together and start being really clever with how to have add-ons when it comes to products, have suggested alternatives if something's out of stock, and really be able to have that kind of step ahead from the user, and not have to make them work for the cross-sells. Again, another example of a customer that it's a kind of a little extra step that they've taken what the user typically orders, and if that's not in the cart, then they will showcase, oh, have you forgotten these? So that this user particularly, would often buy cucumbers or avocados, they're not in the basket. Let's just give them a little reminder, and maybe it would be an additional upsell. Cart and checkout journeys, maybe something you don't necessarily think when it comes to personalisation, but for B2B, one user will see, can come to your e-commerce platform, and they're a credit customer. They don't need to go through all of these checkout steps. They have their account information already held on the account, the delivery. All they need to do is just either add a PO number and just place order directly from the cart. So it's an instant checkout, and it really, we've seen such a positive increase in engagement and sales through this process on some of our clients. And then the second one here, you've got the same website, a different user logging in, and they are a credit card customer, and they just go through the traditional checkout. So personalised checkouts and cart journeys as well is so critical for B2B, because people are time poor, they don't want to have to be cluttered with the unnecessary. Personalised dashboards as well is something that is really useful when a user comes and they log in, say for instance someone from finance, they're really wanting to get in and look at the invoices, statements, all of that stuff. You can tailor the dashboard really to take out all of the sales and order stuff that they're not really that concerned about. But then you've got somebody who's on a day-to-day, they are purchasing day-to-day, they're on the platform, and their dashboard would be more sales, orders orientated than, say, the finance person. So you can really utilise dashboards to personalise the experience for B2B, especially. Self-service as well, invoices, and allowing that to be an additional service that your e-commerce platform provides. B2B now is moving beyond the transaction. It is now a full service solution. So being able to showcase invoices and statements for certain users that have those permissions, personalize that experience for them as well. And we recently launched a small B2B platform that within 3 months, they saw an uplift of 10 extra hours for staff members because of the users being able to access their self-service, because they were freed up from phone calls about account stuff and management, and they're able to focus now on more, I suppose, growth tasks for the organisation. Notifications is another really powerful way to add a personalised experience to your website. We all know it from our Facebook and all the social media platforms. that a little notification really has a little trigger in your mind. So we can give tailored notifications per group, per customer segments or individual. So it will draw attention for the user to certain products, certain content, and really just allows, especially when there's an abundance of information on a website or an e-commerce platform, that it really filters through and will allow a more personalised and unique experience. And it does take away all the unnecessary as well when you're able to deliver these notifications. Loyalty programs as well is something that is highly personalised, and it's becoming more and more common in B2B land. That, you know, having these rewards and incentives are huge for organisations to be able to offer for their customers. Maybe it's not cost or you know like you would think when it comes to B2C, it could be more rewards based. But it definitely is something that really does individualise and personalise an experience for a shopping experience and provides a little bit more of an incentive. And this is probably the most creative side of it in terms of content personalisation. One block can be the same design, but with a change of content and messaging, it can showcase a very different story and it can talk to very different users. So, you know, we can really utilise the content blocks and really personalise the content when it comes to more engagement as well, and it will lead to, you know, boosts in that engagement and loyalty, I suppose, as well. Here's an example, again, very simply, of a logged in and a logged out homepage. So a logged out view, the messaging is obviously going to be totally towards new customers. The benefits of the company are more the USPs of the company. They are, the whole goal is to encourage new customers to, you know, sign up or to go about, I suppose, going to activate a new account. Whereas the logged in view, you already have this customer. The navigation can change into more product. You're more sales orientated. You have you can have like a self-service bar at the bottom that allows you to get straight into all of their account areas and dashboards and things like that. So at a very simple level, personalisation can really work and very effectively. So that is the end of my talk, and just to kind of sum up, really the B2B are facing so much pressure when it comes to offering sophisticated user experience and personalisation, and the data and analytics can only get users and customers or organisations so far. There really has to be a strategy and thought process behind the usage and the plan, and B2B is a nuanced approach. One organisation comes to us and it's not the same as the next one. The B2B in itself is just so different and nuanced that it does deserve that, I suppose, extra thought process as well. And that would lead me to the deep understanding of your users and their journeys. How can you act as a guide without knowing what their needs and behaviours are? But I think that if B2B organisations that are starting to navigate through and start at a very simple level to introduce these very realistic personalisation techniques, they will be in a very good position to navigate and evolve through the growing needs of the customers from now and into the future. So that is me. Any questions?
Yes. Yeah. Laura, at the initial of the presentation, you mentioned that B2B business has overloaded the data and the customers are confused that which data to be remembered and which data not to be. And on the latest stage, when you mentioned that whenever any customer have any question, the answer should be available. So how to tackle that data and how to represent the overloaded data in such a way, representative data?
Yeah, I suppose when I talked about too much data, I suppose it's that, maybe you come to a form for an account sign up and it's like absolutely so long and they haven't distilled the critical information. So that could be a barrier for the next step or turn them off, progressing with that form. But I think it's ultimately knowing the sales funnel and what questions and where is the intent along this sales funnel. That will be where you can answer certain questions around trust. For instance, I'm not sure about this company. You can then showcase, information around testimonials, client case studies, things like that. So, or even down to trust around where do they want to see security logos, things like that. And then later on in the journey, what type of questions they have about the product, for instance. Is that in your information about the product itself as well? I think it's so individual for each thing that the data can, as I said, it can only tell you so much. Like obviously we can see, you know, from analytics how people go through, you can see what's being captured, but there's so many different ways that you can, I suppose, instill trust and that I suppose once the customer knows that you kind of know what you're talking about, you are answering the questions at the right time throughout the journey. If that makes sense, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, that's fine, thank you.
I'm Martin from the Food and Drink Wholesale Federation. On your suggested pop-ups for B2C, you know, if you bought something, do you want this?
Yeah.
Is there any evidence that customers, consumers don't like that?
Well, that was actually B2B. That was a B2B
That's just
customer.
B2B,
That was a B2B. Well, no, obviously, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a fine line between pop-ups and you know, generally we would discourage them.
Yeah.
But in this instance, their chefs and their regular orders, they know that this is something
Yeah.
unusual. Why have they not ordered those things? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause as a consumer, I find them a pain in the arse.
Yes, exactly. No, me too. Yeah.
You know what you want to look at, and that's what you want to see, not.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all about not, you know, derailing the journey and getting in you know, to derailing them from the conversion, you know.
Okay. And on data, really interesting. In wholesale, a lot of wholesalers, food and drink wholesalers, still see it as a threat rather than an opportunity. I'm just wondering if other people experience that. And just as an example, you had a can of Coke there. Wholesalers might not buy their Coca-Cola from Coca-Cola, but you wouldn't want them to know that. So, you know, grey market, Europe, whatever, Tesco's. So you might want to hide the fact you've brought it from them, but when you claim your rebates, you might still include it. So, and I'm just wondering if it's really hard to break that thought process of it's a threat, not an opportunity. And I just wonder if anybody else comes across anything like that, where people are just very negative towards data and wish it had never come up.
I really have any experience of that.
Yeah.
Do you have you experienced anything with dealing with across sort of pan-European where you've since Brexit there's the different VAT things that we have to worry about and all that? How have you managed that process?
So I suppose that's more the kind of technical development side of it, whereas I don't know if we have recently had good tag. Do you know?
Sorry, what's the question?
The VAT, the
So
different VAT
if you've got,
regions.
If you're selling across regions, how do you manage the VAT? What you know, quite often you'll have to have a business entity in the country, or they have to have a business entity within the country for you to manage the VAT. I'm just wondering if you've come across that and what you do with it with regards to the e-commerce side of things.
So the whole business of cross-border commerce, you know, the challenges around of it, that's an ongoing kind of a challenge for any merchant.
Yeah.
So I've seen in some of the international players who has the resources, the capacity, the capability, they tend to go with, okay, we're going to go for top 4 markets, we're going to go to Australian dollars, we're going to go to US. So they have identified their target segments. They've already worked out what the VAT rules and local companies set up in cross-border and fulfillment they need to do. And either they would have their own infrastructure and local VAT numbers and legal entities set up, and based on the IP or your choice of domain, you actually go and then the local rules applies. And then there are solutions available, like if you look at in the kind of a large e-commerce solutions, like there are companies like Vertex and Digital Rivers, so they are cross-border solution providers. So you can actually almost use it's almost like a merchant service. You can use them. They will provide you their infrastructure, and they'll take a kind of commission fee to offset and settle local VAT rules. So For a small businesses, unless you are looking at the early stages and you don't have the infrastructure, know-how and budget, and you don't want to spend all of that money to set up a company in each territory or VAT number, you could use these third-party service providers.
Okay.
And there are a few good options available in market. But then as you scale and you realize you're giving away a lot of margins, and B2B is a small margin game,
Yeah.
so you need to say, okay, most of my traffic comes from these 4 territories, and I need to make maximum of the budget and availability, maximum profitability, so you end up setting up your own thing. And tools like Adobe Commerce or any good B2B e-commerce tool, they provide you, by default, they provide you technical capability. You can configure different marketplace, and you can have multiple store view for each currency, for each territory, and then doesn't matter where you come from, you will be directed to the local market with the local rules, and then you get away from, you know, kind of a bigger global jargon and confusion effect.
Okay.
And I think Adobe Commerce is a very, very efficient software and capability for international markets and handling those rules.
I've just got one more question on payments as well. So, has anybody, you know, have you had any experience with people asking about paying through digital currency rather than cash?
Cryptos?
Yeah. I mean, it's been around for quite a while now. It's supposed to be the next big thing, but how do you
Not
pay
my
for stuff?
experience anyway.
Yeah. In the world of B2B, even paying online using credit card, debit card, or bank settlement is probably not that prevalent. Then you have your buyers' accounts and they have credit limits set, and they're buying, and they're buying based on the PO number, and then the monthly invoice or whatever the arrangement between the buyer and supplier, they're settling it offset, you know, offline. But then now there are trends where people saying, God, I'm out of my credit limit, I need to buy more for Christmas, so can I pay and offset that credit limit by credit card or bank transfer?
Yeah.
So now there is a trend where people are offsetting online.
Yeah.
In the countries like India and a lot of countries, POC or payment on delivery is still quite prevalent. You know, people are still asking for more credit line as they're putting orders. Crypto in the world of B2B is not so prevalent, but in the world of B2C, where you know you're selling electronic gadgets or specific gold items, I think crypto is more.
Yeah, we have a situation where we seem to have more of a B2D, so it's a B2B service, but it's then direct to the consumer. So it's a mix of B2B and B2C. So we do get the requirements to pay through credit card services, Apple Pay, Google Pay, etc. So that's where the question goes.
In B2B then, definitely open banking is becoming a much bigger player.
Yeah.
And it's simply down to the transaction fee.
Right. And then obviously, the other thing that kind of captures my mind, if you're going for the buy now, pay later method, and you're not using something like the providers that are there, if you were doing that cross-channel? So how do you manage the possibility of inflation or the value of the pound versus the dollar or the euro? You know, if you're selling something and it might be a small item, but you're selling it en masse, and it's the idea is that you're going to offer that service of buy now, pay later. By the time it's delivered, you could have lost out by 20, 30, 40,000 pounds.
True. Yeah. Again, big players tend to have multi-currency solutions based on the territory anyway. So if you are a buyer from pound sterling territory, you pay pound sterling. They'll have multiple accounts and payment settlers. But having said that, I have seen the examples where payment has been made or will be paid tomorrow or a month time, and suddenly the dollar's price gone really bad versus pound. It happens, and the merchant has taken hits of that as well.
Because in a production perspective, it's great having the territories having their own VAT instances, but if the production's done in the UK, and that's the only place that it can be done, and then it's going to be shipped to Yugoslavia or something, it goes through 2 or 3 different territories together, you could be losing out on lots of money.
Absolutely, yeah. companies like Klarna, and there
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
there are expert settlers
Yeah.
companies where you can de-risk yourself,
Yeah,
but then obviously they eat your commission.
yeah,
And
exactly.
B2B is a world of very small
Very,
margins.
very small.
Any other questions for Laura?
At the moment, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks again, Laura. That was fantastic. Lots of important best practice recommendations there, and thanks very much for the questions. That just keeps it very interactive. So thank you very much for those. Okay, I think we're now at the stage where we'll take a short break. We'll just convene back out into the kind of sort of foyer there. We've got some coffee later on, so we'll just take a 30-minute break or so. Then we'll come back and get straight into our live case study with our client Punch Pumps. So thank you very much. We'll see you in about 30 minutes. Thank you.